It has been about 12 days after the devastating flood of May 2025 that struck communities in Mokwa local government area of Niger State. We submerged homes, farmlands, numerous lives and displaced hundreds of residents. It claimed numerous lives. And Mokwa flood has been tagged the deadliest flood so far in the last 60 years. And since this disaster happened, there has been a lot of interventions. President Tinubu activated the National Emergency Response Centers and deployed federal agencies to provide relief materials and temporary shelters to survivors, with individuals, private and public organizations, complementing these efforts. What has been the impact of these interventions? What is the latest on the flood disaster? And what measures have been put in place to avert a recurrence in Niger State, as well as prevent flooding in other 29 states named by the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, NISA, as high flood risk-prone areas? This and more will be a focus on Nigeria Today. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ikaria Clinton. With me in the studio is Dr. Clement Nze. He's immediate past Director General, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, NISA. He's also the former hydrological advisor to the federal government. It's a pleasure to have you on Nigeria Today.
Thank you. My pleasure to have come back here after a while.
So, Doc, we'll start with, just get a perception about the whole thing, the Mokwa flood and, the devastating effect it had on the community in that part of that state. So talk to us, what's your own perception about the whole thing?
Well, yeah, you see, if you look at, if you saw the footages, video clips, and the quantum amount of the flood, the speed and so on, it is quite frightening. The kind of number of lives that were lost. As I was listening to TVC this morning, their news about, they say 206. And that should be maybe the number that were accounted for. There could be other one that say they are still missing. They don't talk about structure that have been destroyed by the flood. So it's quite alarming. What happened at Mokwa, quite alarming. And why it is a bit worrisome is that it is too early in the day. When we say too early in the day, we are making reference to the hydrological year, where we normally experience the highest amount of rainfall with attendant flooding pattern. Is still a bit far. This happened to the end of May. And we are yet to get into July, August, September. And maybe due to climate change, flooding season has also gotten into October. It wasn't so in years past. So it's quite devastating what happened in Mokwa.
Now, looking at the whole situation, Doc, is there any hydrological explanation to these, to the cause of this flood in Mokwa?
Flood is a natural phenomenon. It is when there's a disaster associated with it that we begin to talk about it. What are the things that could have been responsible for the flood? First and foremost, if there is no rainfall, there will be no flood. Now, what happened in Mokwa was a high-intensity rainfall for a shorter duration. And then the resulting flood, the runoff, the one they could not be consumed, could not get into the soil, were looking for where to pass, to go into a channel, either a river or natural depression, to be properly, safely conveyed. They couldn't find it because buildings have taken the route for the flood. So high rainfall intensity. If amount of rainfall that is supposed to fall over a period of time, say, let me say, 10 days, happens to fall within a day, the impact is much. Like you carry a bucket of water, if you be dropping it more, you will not find the effect, because it will be before it finishes. If it takes about 10 to 20 minutes to pour it out, the impact is less than when you just empty it
at once.
So yes, that's what happened. Rainfall of high intensity, shorter duration, and then the anthropogenic activities of man. You build structures here and there that obstruct the natural pattern, natural flow of flood. That's what caused the devastation we have in Mokwa. And it is also climate induced. Some areas, like I mentioned, the high rainfall intensity, maybe the amount of rainfall that has been experienced in that location over the years is far less than what is happening now due to climate change issues.
Yeah, talking about the amount of rain, Niger State was among the states named to be at high flood risk. In this case, what really happened? Because the warnings have been already given out. Is it that there was inadequate preparedness, or?
See, that has been the bone or contention, has been the challenge. You see, at the federal level, serious efforts are being made by federal government agencies to, set alarm, tell you what is going to happen. Flood issues occur in communities. For instance, in February, as early as February, the Nigerian Meteorological Agency came up with their own predictions, seasonal climate predictions, which it tells you with regard to rainfall, when it will start in each community, the onset date. It will tell you when it's end, which is the cessation date. From there, you can get number of days of rainfall. Maybe people in agriculture will know what to do. And also tell you this is the volume that you will expect in a particular location. NIMET did that. NISA, the Hydrological Agency, less than 2 months after, combining several parameters, scientific tools, like that amount of rainfall NIMET has talked about, the geology of the environment, the topography, the river system, because NISA measures all the major rivers in Nigeria to know how they are behaving. They are ranging up and down. That's what we call stage or height. And then the speed of flow, the discharge. NISA measures all those. With other parameters, scientific parameters, we are put together to do the prediction, to tell you these are the locations that will be affected by flood. This is the magnitude. Now, this was made public by each of these forecasting agencies, which are at the federal government level. Governors were invited, they were written letters. Documents were made available to them. So it is expected that the subnationals should do the needful in terms of doing proper environmental audit, in terms of looking at what has been released and see how it affects their own locality and know what to do. In those documents, remedial measures to be taken were equally listed there. But what happens most of the time is that we take it as one of those things. When disaster now occurs, people start running helter-skelter. So measures were not taken at the subnational level.
And the warnings, they didn't hit to the warnings.
They didn't hit to the warning. That's the issue. Yes, they didn't hit to it.
Wow, Doc, if you look at what happened in that state, you see that quite a lot of persons have lost their homes.
Yes.
Lives have been lost. Just like you said, these are the ones that were accounted for.
Yes.
Over 200 people that were, they've been accounted for. These are the ones they could have. But then, how important is it for states? You're talking about the subnational now.
Yes.
The federal government, of course, is doing quite a lot to ensure that, these
Yes.
warnings go out with their agencies, coming up with warnings, just like you rightly said, NISA, NIMET. But the subnationals are kind of lacking in their own duties to ensure that, measures are in place to ensure that when these warnings are given, that they swing into action to avert these kinds of things. So how important is it for, this level of government to be proactive, not just reactive?
Well, the fact that every state in Nigeria has town planning authorities, each state has it. If they do approve, like here, we call it development control. Abuja's own, we call it development control. But at the state, they call it town planning. It could be a unit in the Ministry of Works, I don't know. Each state has state Ministry of Water Resources. Each state has the Ministry of Environment. These particular bodies I've mentioned underscore the fact that the state know that there is a need to plan for the environment. But the issue of maybe other civil service, I was a civil servant before I was appointed the chief executive. But before then, I was in the private sector, and I was gathered all my actions in the private sector. If you don't deliver, you will be sacked. Working in so many companies, either had road projects, bridges, and road houses, and so on. So they should not just have those bodies just for mere employment purposes. Those bodies have authorities, powers vested in them to take action. Some of you who were here around 2003, 4, 5, when Madam El-Rufai was the Minister of FCT, several story buildings were pulled down because they were built within the floodplain. So the state should be able to utilize the instruments it has already put in place, activate it. After the rainy season like this, you do environmental audit. You have the organs already in your state. Just as human beings go and do medical checkup, you audit your environment. FCT is one of the best in the country when it talks about the environmental, the State Emergency Management Agency going around the city to know which areas have been blocked here and there. They work on them before the rains will start. And they are always looking forward to the predictions that are being made by these two agencies, NISA and NIMET. So you are asking, the fact that these states have all these bodies, Town Planning Authority, State Emergency Management Agency, Water Resources Ministry, Ministry of Environment, underscores the fact that they are aware that something has to be done. But on the long run, it's just like where people carry files and don't do much.
Okay, you've been in NISA before. You were the former Director General. What are some of the challenges the agency faces in communicating flood risk, to local authorities, and residents? I mentioned one classical example. I think I was I wasn't the DG as at that time. I called the state government, the person in charge of State Emergency Management Agency, that the agency is coming to your state because it's one of the states that have been fingered that will be of high flood risk incidents. That we want to come and do a kind of sensation to the communities, printed in English and Igbo. We will do road show. The person told me, even how to communicate, I think, okay, I was a DG. We told the coordinator in that covered that area, gave letters. These are the traditional rulers of the local government area that will be affected. Take this money and give them, for them, traditional rulers, so that when they come, they get the message, they go home. This is for their transport. But when the chief executive in charge of the State Management Agency was contacted, he said no. If you have any relief material, bring it to us. If you have any relief material, we say we are not NEMA. We don't give relief. Our own is there to tell you ahead of time what is going to happen. And incidentally, when Lokoja was raging, the person was calling me now, please, Deputy Governor, I think is in charge of such a
that's emergency in the state. The deputy governor is on my neck, please, sir, can you help me? Tell me when you will it arrive here. I said, I don't know when it will arrive. Now, we don't give relief. So at times they don't want to listen to you. Again, they don't believe it will happen.
It's not their portion.
Yes, it's not my portion. I pray. One man, one ATS staff, I'm in ATS. One ATS staff in Lokoja, he was warned to take precaution. He refused. God save him, he was in the studio when the thing happened. So it was the clothes he was wearing that he was wearing till whatever you could help him. So they say it's not my portion, it will not happen. So he didn't take that warning in Lokoja. So eventually when he was in the studio, like before he came back, he didn't see his house again. So it was the clothes he was wearing that was salvaged. So he said it wasn't his portion. So let us say, God gave us brain that human beings can intercept nature to tell you what you're going to. Like when Namet tells you it will rain in Amak on the 5th of April, he said maybe 5 days before or 5 days after, it will become accurate. So human beings, God gave us the same brain to be able to predict and tell you this flood is coming here. So please, do the necessary you need to do while you are praying.
Thank you very much, Doc. We'll take a short break now. The conversation will continue after the break. Don't go away.
The implementation of the ruling is also dependent on another aspect or another arm of government.
Nowhere in the world will allow under digital economy for banks not to be dispensing domestic currency in that economy.
What will make this one different? We want to know what they do as occupation. All of these are attributes that our questions have been designed to investigate.
In a few days to come, you see that we are all around their own crannies and everywhere in Nigeria, telling people to cooperate.
Welcome to Nigeria Today.
Welcome back. This is still Nigeria Today. We're looking at updates on the Mokwa flood. And of course, I have here in the studio with me the former DG NISA, Dr. Nze.
Thank you.
So, Doc, of course, you've mentioned some of the challenges you had. Now, talk to us. How do we address the pressing challenges of flood disaster? You know, that we see recurring, because there are some other states that have been fingered to be, you know, we have the high risk, they're prone to this flood in fact any minute from now.
Now, the documents that NISA presented to the public through by the Honorable Minister of Water Resources, Engineer Professor Joseph Ussel, that document is in the public domain. Any serious-minded state government should be able to avail itself of such documents. Each state government in Nigeria has office in Abuja. And we have zonal offices. Some of them oversee 4 states and so on and so forth. So documents are available. Look at it as it pertains to you as a state government. One of the days I was going to speak at in the studio, FRCN, they call it a radio link. I jammed one governor there. Eventually he took 8 to 10, I took 10 to 12. So we discussed this, because when I knew he was coming, about 2 days, a day to I don't know that he was coming, I had to extract that one that pertained to his state. 2 copies of it I made, spirally bound. When we came out within the few minutes before I could enter, we chatted and greeted and gave him the document. We exchanged the details. That was our last communication. Let them make use of the documents that have been made available to them. Do early remedial works in your state. Do environmental audit. After each rainy season, if you go around the town, even here in Abuja, you will see the handprint, the fingerprint of rainfall, of flood. You can see it on bridges, the bridge piers or pillar, or what we may call it. You can see it on trees, by the highway. You can see it by the buildings. Especially if you go to Gogolada, something like that, by that Suma, or is it that Suma River. It is telling you a story. This is my own domain. Anything within this reach should be removed. Therefore, as early as possible, when I say as early as possible, during the dry season, you have to do the clearing, remove those structures, clear the drainages. And as at this time, we may have to rely mainly on sensitizing your people. If you have known the locations that have been fingered, begin to warn them. I don't know why the flood often comes at night. So let people be prepared, like your colleague I mentioned in the Lokoja, where you want to work. So let sensitize your citizens to be prepared at all times.
Yes, I was about asking that.
Move to the highlands, higher grounds. In Africa, especially Nigeria, we are our sisters keepers. So if you go to some, you can keep whatever valuable you have somewhere. Some years back, 2014, Niger State government said they have what they call wet housing and dry housing scheme, whereby those farmers and the fishermen who live at the bank of the river, during the rainy season, they move upland, operate in the daytime by the river bank. They go upland to the houses that have been built by the state government. During the dry season, when the river has receded, they will come back to the bank of the river to do their fishing and whatever thing they do. So the state government should be able to sensitize the citizens to be at alert of anything that could happen at this stage.
Okay, so what can be done to improve the response systems, in the various states?
I think I have said a lot of things. Unfortunately, the forecasting agencies are at the federal government level. All that we do end up at the level of advocacy, advisory. Nobody can carry whip here in Abuja to police any state to comply with what has been predicted. The best we do is to appeal, go and sensitize them from time to time, location to location. That we can come to Makurdi and organize it for some states that are contiguous to Benue State, and then appeal to them. This is what you need to do. Beyond that, you don't have much to do again. You can't police anybody to comply to the predictions that have been made.
No, so in order to round off, how can we assess the sectorial impacts of flood on, just in 1 minute, in education, the impact of the flood on education, agriculture, and infrastructure, and of course your final word?
One, education is the first casualty when this thing happens. The schools become IDP camp. As similar as some of them in Lokoja, sorry, in Kogi State. It's education. People may lose a calendar year, whatever they call it. Talk of agriculture. Many people's farm, like what happened in Niger State, in Kebbi State, 2018, lost their farm. Infrastructure. Between Abuja and between Lokoja and Abuja, in 2018, some people spent days on the road. Some lost their property, even those conveying livestock. After some days, the thing died inside the trailer. So the implication of flood is quite enormous. It affects various sectors. Now, my final word is it will be better to spend a little with regards to early warning than to spend so much to go and give people and say relief materials. Now, about 200 people who died in Niger State, in Mokwa, those one has gone. They have gone. There's nothing you can do again. Now, state government, I learned, has given 1 billion naira, Niger State government. And the federal has given 2 billion. But if I had spent 1 billion naira only, or even less, on early warning system, do some physical work, we won't be talking about having lost human beings, and then not talk about giving relief material, which may not even reach to the victims that are affected.
Thank you very much, Dr. Clement Nzaid, immediate past Director General, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, NISA, and of course the former hydrological advisor to federal government. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to visit here again.
And thank you for being part of the program. I'm Ikaria Clinton. Goodbye.